So we have this issue where we're trying to fight, again, now we're being put on the defensive. Because where I try to be proactive, I'm trying to get them to understand the importance of truth and fact, I'm also trying to fight something where they've already had that emotional switch flipped, right? And now, the reason that some of the mainstream organizations don't like when I say this is because they're conditioned already to be on the defensive. All of the organizations, the major mainstream organizations, their forms of advocacy are all very defensive. So they'll talk about dead babies, we'll talk about computer chips. Now, don't get me wrong, I think a lot of the technological innovations in Israel are brilliant. I think that the contributions of Jewish people to the worlds of science, literature, I mean, those are, you know, tiny percentage of human beings making a massive contribution. But when someone's talking about dead babies, talking about computer chips is just going to alienate them. And they're literally going to look at you like, do you have Asperger's? Like why would you think in any world that that's a legitimate argument? I mean, if you're going to talk to techie nerds, like people that have to have the newest iPhone, then absolutely that's a brilliant argument to make. Like the tech sector, you want them to understand that Israel is a vibrant and innovative place. But when you're talking to a student who probably has his mom's old iPhone 3, you know, you don't come to him and say, oh, computer chips, you know. Now, the other reason that this is important is because when we're talking about advocacy, we have to make sure that we understand that it's also important that we know what we're talking about. Because I've seen the damage that somebody who isn't very knowledgeable can do. Now, good intentions, and you know, they come out and they say, you know, like, yeah, you know, I'm pro-Israel, I really support Israel, and Israel needs to be there, and blah, blah, blah. And then someone will ask them a question, and then they'll make a, I want to say a faux pas, but it's just a really bad argument. They'll make a bad argument, and then the other people that are watching this argument see that, and instead of thinking, okay, well, this guy's a bad arguer, they think Israel's wrong, right? And I've seen it very often because some of the people that travel around, and I won't mention any names, but there's a large organization that has a gentleman that goes around teaching people advocacy, and he actually teaches, don't defend the undefendable like the settlements. Now, the reason that kind of, well, I'm just going to be honest, pisses me off, because not only is that an absolutely bullshit thing to say, but he's teaching the next generation of advocates this advocacy, which is not advocacy, which is to do nothing. But more importantly, he's perpetuating something that the other side has literally built in. So I'm not a lawyer, but I took 15 minutes one night, and I found that I was actually researching treaty stuff for Native stuff, and I found that in actual point of fact, and I don't understand why more people don't do this, the settlements aren't illegal. They're not. They're not illegal, and it's patently ridiculous to suggest they are. And yet, I guarantee you, if you go downstairs right now, walk outside, and ask anybody on the street, you know, how do you feel about the settlements in Israel? Oh, they're illegal, right? Why? Because the other side's done a much better job with the PR, and they've got that point of view out to people. They just basically keep telling, what is it? It was Goebbels that said you tell a big lie long enough and people will believe it? Well, that's what they've done. Yeah.
Has decided.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing.
Refer to the UN.
Absolutely. And what, you know what? This is what I say, because that's a brilliant point. The UN might be the most ridiculous body in the history of the world. Like, and as a Native person, this is coming directly, like, from my community. And we actually contributed to the UN Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People until we realized they don't give a shit about Indigenous people. They talk about it. But, I mean, they've given $30 billion to the Palestinians, and what have they given to Native people here in Canada? So we've kind of realized that these people, they don't really give a shit about us. They just talk the talk, right? And the thing about the United Nations is, like, and this is really funny, and, well, funny to me, and probably less funny to you because it directly affects you, but in the year when there was an actual genocide in Rwanda, so an actual complete destruction of a population, they censured Israel 13 times. 13 times. Guess how many times they censored Rwanda?
Once.
Not until the very, very end of the genocide, when they actually had to admit it, when the UN had withdrawn completely, and then they said, guys, that was really bad. You know, like, how do you even, as a human being who tries to generally live his life by moral principles, how do you even justify that?